What's up, everybody? Happy Monday. Welcome to the Keeper Action News Studio. We have got a very, very special podcast for you guys coming today. Usually, we
very informative.
Like every single game from the MCC.
We're not doing that anymore.
Playoffs is just a couple weeks away, and it's about time that teams lock in playoff seedings. And for the teams that aren't going to the playoffs, it's time to play disruptors. So we're going to get into every scenario that could go on in the 4A and the 3A as it pertains to the Mid-Columbia Conference. We'll also talk about volleyball, soccer, all the sports going around in our region. But a crazy week in the MCC.
Yeah.
PASCO versus HANFORD, very important game.
That was
maybe
a big
not a lot
game.
of people knew was going to be a big game.
We were looking at games, and when you go through it, you're like, oh, PASCO versus HANFORD, that was sneaky good, and it turned out to be a good game. I shouldn't say it turned out to be a good game because it was pretty lopsided. HANFORD took care of business handily, but it was a big game because it shook up the 4A. Because if PASCO would have won out, they would have had the top 4A seed. And they could still now, we're going to get into it, and they could still now get it, but their road is much tougher now.
Yeah, and it's like we talked about in the beginning of the year, every single week is an important game.
Yeah.
And anybody can beat anybody, and it's starting to prove, and we'll get into it game by game, team by team, what they need to do to get into the playoffs. But who's in and who's out? As
of right now, Monday afternoon, who's in, who's out? For 4A, you have CHIAWANA, and they look like they're pretty much locked in. They're going to be locked in. You're going to be in the playoffs. They're going to be your top seed for all intents and purposes. And then right now, because HANFORD won, HANFORD is that second game in because, yes, they're all tied with 3 wins with PASCO, WALLA, with PASCO, WALLA, but the Falcons, they hold the tiebreaker over both those teams head-to-head. So right now, HANFORD is in the playoffs for the second straight year if things ended today.
Yep, and there are a bunch of teams in the 4A that are vying for that second and final spot to go to the playoffs. The 3A basically is a 2-man race. It all just depends on who's going to be 1 and 2. Right now, Kennewick and Kamiakin are the 2 class of the 3A.
They're going.
Kennewick,
they can start making their playoff.
Yeah.
They can make their playoff.
And we'll get into kind of like why Kennewick's 1 and 2. Basically, it's because Kennewick beat Kamiakin, but we'll get into how Kamiakin can get that number 1 seed as opposed to 2. But we'll get into that a little bit right now. Let's go into the 4A playoff picture. This is going to be a majority of our podcast today. It took us like 30 minutes to figure out like how this is all
because we're not math
out.
majors.
Yeah, not math majors and just not
barely
like super smart guys. Okay, so like you said, CHIAWANA, for all intents purposes, have been the class of not only the 4A, but the MCC. This season, they've basically locked up the number 1 seed.
They did. I mean, they've locked up the number 1 seed because their last 2 are against Kamiakin and PASCO. And even if they went 6 and 2, let's say they just lost both games, they'd go 6 and 2, and no other 4A team has 2 losses. Everyone else is 1. So they're the number 1 4A seed.
But the second one is where it gets super messy. And last week was important because HANFORD beating PASCO, like you said, put them in position to now be
means they've beat
controlling their own destiny.
Yes.
Richland losing to WALLA and PASCO early in the season has now put them in a position where they're out.
They are out. Because even if they got to 4 wins, which if they win and won both games, their last 2 games of the year, which this week against Kennewick, next week against HANFORD, is conceivable because we'll get it, Kennewick's dealing with some injuries, and then HANFORD and Richland is always a rivalry game. But even if they got to 4 wins and 4 and 4, they would lose the tiebreakers to PASCO and WALLA, who would also have a 4th win because PASCO and WALLA play this week, and so someone has to get a win. You can't just play ties.
Yeah, it's not like the NFL where games end in ties. Thank you, high school football, for figuring something out that the NFL still hasn't figured out. So for all intents and purposes, Richland is out, but they can be serious disruptors because
they have plenty to play for.
Host Kennewick, who, like you said, is a little banged up. So that's not only going to affect the 3A, but the final week, they play HANFORD, who controls their own destiny. And wouldn't it be great to beat your city rival and make sure that they can't go to the playoffs? So
the Atomic Bowl is what they call that.
The Atomic Bowl will be my first ever Atomic Bowl. Never seen it, but I've heard that Richland has had HANFORD's number for basically ever. But Richland can play disruptor in the 3A and 4A, so they still have stuff to play for.
Exactly, because if Richland won this week against Kennewick, then Kennewick they'd need some...
They need some help.
Yeah.
Okay, so now let's start with HANFORD. What does HANFORD have to do to lock up that playoff spot? They control their own destiny.
They control their own destiny, which is great for Brett Jay's team. And if they go 2-0, They take care of business, and every coach is going to tell you, if they just go out and take care of their own business and they win, they are your second 4A seed. We could just chalk that up. It'll stay chalk of what it is right now. But if they go 1-1, then that brings PASCO back into it, and Walla Walla. No, it doesn't bring Walla Walla into it, right?
We'll get into that a little bit. Let's just talk about Hanford right now. So 2-0, they're in 1-1.
They need help. They need PASCO to go 1-1 as well, because if PASCO goes 2-0, they get to 5 wins. They'd have more wins straight up than Hanford would. And so then they would have to, they would be on the outside looking in. If they go 0-2, they're done. Because then they would have to, they would not have enough wins. Because, like I said, PASCO, Walla Walla going to get to 4 no matter what. They're going to get to 4. One of those teams is going to get to 4. So if they would go 0-2, they're done. So they got to just win. And that's, as for any team, if you just go win and you don't have to look at the scoreboard and look what other teams are doing, you know you're in a good spot. And that's why that game against PASCO, the Bulldogs, was so huge. Because now, in a way, the weight is kind of off their shoulders because they don't have to wait for someone else to do something. If they, go win, they go beat, who are they playing this week?
So the 2 games remaining that Hanford has is on the road against Hermiston, which is important, and we'll get into that in a little bit. So on the road against Hermiston, and then at Fran Rich against the Richland
I think
Bombers.
They're technically the road team this year, but they're at
for
Fran
all intents and purposes, they're all in Richland. The student sections should all come out. The community's all going to come out. It's going to be a huge game. I've said this, and I think you've said this multiple times as well. Going to Walla Walla and going to Hermiston on the road can be a trap game.
Yeah.
And like you said, you just have to take care of your business. But going to Hermiston, who's had a disappointing season, do you think they're going to be motivated to want to knock off a team that might be able to go to the playoffs? Don't you think that coach is going to preach that in the locker room?
Yeah.
Hey, these guys, they're coming in super excited because they, are in the playoff picture, and if they just beat us, they're smooth riding. I guarantee you the Bulldogs are going to want to take out Hanford. So that might be a trap game. And then, like you said, the Atomic Bowl against Richland, those are the final 2 games for the Hanford Falcons.
Yeah, if you're in the bottom half of the standings and you are not going to play a playoff game on Week 10, like I've told you before, everyone plays Week 10. It's just whether or not it's for a playoff spot or not. But that's got what you got to preach now at this point. Let's ruin someone else's season. These kids, they're teenagers, and if there's a reason for them to get more motivated and take someone out, I mean, we see it with pros. Even with just like this weekend with Kyle Shanahan going back to Washington where he was fired, and they wanted to go win one for their Gipper. Like, if you could get any other message to get your team fired up when you're having a disappointing season, watch out. And if Hermiston or the Southridge or Richland or any of these teams that are on the outside looking in can keep games close, they're going to feel like they can win the games in the fourth quarter.
Yep. Now let's get to PASCO. They need to go 2-0.
Yes, they need to go 2-0, and that's the only way they get in right off the bat. They go 2-0, but then they also need to have Hanford go 1-1. PASCO needs to go 2-0. They have to win both of their games, and they are in. But they're not like Hanford where they control their own destiny because they lost to Hanford, and that's the first head-to-head is the first tiebreaker. So they need to go 2-0. And then they need Hanford to go 1-1.
5 is the magic number. If a team can get to 5 and prevent another team to get to 5, the only team to get to 5 is going to go to the playoffs. So Hanford goes 2-0, they go to 5 wins, right?
Yep.
If PASCO goes 2-0, they get to 5 wins. But, like you said, because Hanford beat PASCO this past Friday, they own the tiebreaker, which would put Hanford ahead of the Bulldogs going into the playoffs. So let's say, for all intensive purposes, we're just going to start playing the guessing game now. PASCO plays who next week?
PASCO this week?
PASCO plays Walla Walla, which is a huge game. That's going to be the game.
We're going to be there for the pep rally, everyone. Be there.
Please be there, because if we're waking up at 4:30 to come out, we want you guys to be excited.
Yeah, PASCO, Walla Walla is... We got to, there's games. Every game this week pretty much has something on the line.
But this one has the most on the line.
This has the most playoff on the line because the winner of this game has their playoff season still alive.
Yeah, so whoever loses this game, really, for all intensive purposes...
No, if they lose, they're done.
They're done.
Yeah, they're done out of the playoffs. They still got one more game. There's going to be a lot to play for. But if they lose this week, Walla or PASCO, their season for... After week 10, they know they have a finite thing. And when you know your season's over at a certain time, as a senior, that's tough.
Yeah, the clock is ticking.
The clock ticks, and you know that. And if you can prolong that and say, hey, we'll get to it next Monday, then that's something really cool. But if they lose this week, they know after week 10, their season is then pretty much over.
Yeah, urgency is a great motivating factor. So PASCO's road ahead this Friday against Walla Walla
at Borleski.
The next week, you play the class of the Mid-Columbia Conference.
You are the home team.
CHIAWANA.
But it's at Edgar Brown.
It's at Edgar Brown, so you've got the Riverhawks.
Yeah.
So you need to win those 2 games. If you lose, it's done.
Yep.
It's over.
Because they've lost to Hanford.
Yeah, so they've lost.
We keep going back to that, but that's what we're doing.
And that's why every single game of the regular season, that's why I love the Mid-Columbia Conference. Every single week is an important game because you never know what team is going to be at what spot at the end of the season and what tiebreaker you need to have.
Yeah, this is the most competitive by far. We've gotten this late in the year since I've been here that the playoff seeding is so mixed up and so muddy. We've never seen it this year, and I was asking coaches, and I don't know if they've seen it this muddled since CHIAWANA first came into the league because PASCO still had some talent still left over at that point. Now PASCO's on its way back. Walla Walla's on its way back. Richland is having a down year by their standards. Hanford Brett J has turned that program around and has them very competitive. And then obviously CHIAWANA is very good and has been very good. But this is the latest that we've had this discussion. It's usually sewn up. It's usually, we know what's happening at this point. And it makes it even more intriguing because this year the 4A only has 2 spots. Now, if every other year it's going to have 3 spots going to the playoffs. So next year it'll be 3, which would make this even way more complex and more interesting because then you would have Hanford, PASCO, Walla Walla, and then Richland would still be alive for that 3rd spot. So it makes it really a lot more competitive this year. Next year is going to be crazy with 3, but now we're still focusing on this because we still have one other school.
Yep, Walla Walla, who put themselves, well, I guess they didn't put themselves. It all comes down to scheduling or whatever. The last game of the season is Wenatchee, which is not
a non-conference
part of the MCC. So
Big 9.
This Friday for Walla Walla, biggest game of the season because it's their last MCC game, and they have to win no matter what. The only way that they can get into the playoffs is they beat PASCO.
And then they need help.
And Hanford has to go 0-2.
Yes.
So this isn't really a position that you really want to be in. You're at a point now, like you said.
Can you imagine if I think it was week 3 when they played Hanford early in the season, or week 2, if they came back and all the way came back and won that game?
I think it was like 28-26.
Yeah.
Like it was a very close game. But yeah, and that's what is great about the MCC. From a fan's perspective, and kind of can be rough for teams' perspective because it's so early in the season that they played each other.
And you're not thinking about it. You don't know how it's all going to unfold.
And then week 8, week 9, you're looking back like, if we
would have just got that game.
A good week of practice, or if only we had
28-25, week 2, 28-25. And that's the beauty of football in a lot of senses, in a lot of levels, is that there's only 10 games for high school. College, there's more, depending on how many teams you play. In NFL, you have 16. So there's only those amount of games, whereas like in MLB, NBA, NHL, there's 82, or even with the AMs, there's 68. So if you lose one head-to-head game, you can make it up somewhere else.
Yeah.
You can't make up head-to-head games.
No.
And so that's why they say that every game is important. Who knew? Who knew looking back, week 2 would be such a huge game? Now we do. So Walla Walla has to win. That is why it's a huge game. I know they're actually really excited about it. They've been pumping out on social media that we're going to be down there for the pep rally. We're going to hype it up. We're going to get out there for the pep rally. It might be one of the biggest PASCO or Walla Walla games regular season in recent memory. Yeah. I know a few years ago when they had Mitch Lesmeister, they had a really good team there. But still, to make it to the playoffs, they haven't been to the playoffs in a while. This is a huge game on Friday, and it's gonna. PASCO, Walla Walla, one of those teams, their playoffs hopes are dashed.
Yep. Someone is gonna walk out of that game with
very
no
disappointed
playoff games.
Yep.
They're done. So just to wrap up real quick, Hanford controls their own destiny. 2-0 in, 0-2 out, 1-1 needs some help.
Yep.
PASCO 2-0 in,
and
Hanford goes 1-1 or worse, which would just be 0-2. They're in. Walla Walla needs to win, and they need Hanford to go 0-2. That's the playoff picture for the 4A class. 3A, it's
Did you get all that?
basically
Did you guys get the Venn diagram going, things like, yeah, because
math brought to you via Alan and Nick
yeah,
on the
we got
Monday
that. If
Trifecta
you have any
podcast.
questions, though, shoot us an email or DM us on Twitter or at comments of this, and we can try and clear it up and as best as we can. So, essentially, though, remember, at this point, WALLA, PASCO, HANFORD are all still alive. Richland is playing spoiler, and they can be a tough spoiler if they can show up and not get down 30-0 in the first quarter.
Yep, that would be ideal, especially if we're not at that game and shooting highlights.
Yeah,
We'd
yeah.
love for you to just, have your best plays for Hoshida's heroes and mixed picks when we're present. No pressure, nothing like that. Let's get to the 3A. Like we said, Kennewick, Kamaikan, basically those are the only two teams that are going to the playoffs. But it does matter who's 1 and who's 2.
Yes, because the one team has the home field and doesn't have to travel up to Spokane, which is always great. But right now, both teams are 5-1. And so they are your 2 3A teams. No matter what happens the last 2 weeks, Kennewick and Kamaikan will be your 2 3A teams.
And if Kennewick owns the tiebreaker because they beat them at the battle.
So Kennewick is in a
Stadium.
better position to be the home team. If they both go 2-0 or if they have the same record the final 2 weeks, Kennewick is going to be the top seed. The only way Kamaikan has a better seed is if Kennewick goes 1-1 and then Kamaikan goes 2-0.
Yep.
And that is the only way that's going to happen. And I believe Kennewick plays Richland this week.
Yep. Kennewick is at Richland.
And then they have
Southridge.
Against
Southridge.
And then they have Southridge. So, again, we talked about if Southridge can play in that game a little bit, and Kennewick has some significant injury issues that they're going to have to work out over the next 2 weeks and get ready for the playoffs. But that's also, if you're the Lions and you have a major injury late in the year, Elijah Tanner came in as backup quarterback. He played pretty good, but you know that you have 3 weeks to get him ready.
Yeah.
So we'll talk about that maybe in another day. But yeah, so Kamaikan needs to go 2-0, and they need Kennewick to go 1-1 if they want to have home field. But last year, Braves did not have home field. They went on the road and took care of business. So you never know how those things out. I think if you're Kennewick, you really need that home field.
Yeah.
Especially where you at or in this year. With how things have kind of shook out the last couple of weeks, you want to be home because you do not want to travel, and you want your backup quarterback, who seems like he's going to be in there for a long haul, to be in there, and you want him to be comfortable.
Yeah, so Kennewick plays at Richland. Again, Richland can play spoiler.
Yep.
However, Kamaikan has a beast this week.
Yeah.
And they play CHIAWANA. So if both teams lose this week, Kennewick is still in the best position.
Yeah.
Because all they have to do now is beat Southridge, whereas Kamaikan, they have Hermiston the last game of the week.
Yeah.
So, like you said, the only way Kamaikan can bump Kennewick is if at the end of the season they have one more win than the Lions.
Right.
It's like we said, what is the message going to be for teams like Hermiston and teams like Southridge? Spoil these guys' night.
Yeah.
Southridge versus Kennewick, last game of the year at Lamson Stadium. What's the message going to be to the Suns? Look, we're not going to go to the playoffs, but your buddies that live literally like 5 minutes down the road, you can spoil their night tonight by making them not be the number one seed. And I'm guarantee you,
you
have to go up
if
to
you're
Spokane.
a teenager, you come back in 10 years, you're still going to be like, hey, remember when we beat you and you didn't go to the playoffs? If you guys are still friends, like that's still going to be a needle that you have forever. And, I mean, here's the other thing. If Kamaikan wins this week, and I just raised my voice a little bit, but if Kamaikan wins this week, if Kamaikan wins this week, Kennewick wins this week, we have 3 teams that are 6-1 atop the MCC. So that means the MCC crown is also going to be split between 3 teams, or it would still be a co-share, because that's how the MCC does it. They don't do the head, which is, okay, I have a little bit of issue with this, because if you're going to have tiebreakers for head-to-head for playoff spots,
you should have
why do you not have the head-to-head tiebreaker for your conference overall champion? But they do not do that. If they end up with the same record overall, they don't do it. Because I'm almost positive. I don't know why I'm doing this, but I'm almost positive.
So for all intents and purposes, this week is going to be the most important week of MCC football
This year.
No
doubt.
The last week of the season is going to be important, but this one is going to determine MCC standings, champions, playoff seedings, playoff classifications. It's going to be determining who's going to go on the road, who gets to stay at home. I hope you guys are ready. Friday Night Fever, it's going to be one of our best shows.
I'm going
fall
back to
season.
make sure
We're
I'm
excited.
right, but they haven't had the issue, so that's been nice. They haven't had the issue where they've had a couple teams with the same standings or the same records
We didn't talk about
overall.
this, but CHIAWANA also holds their own destiny.
Right,
to
so
win
if
the
CHIAWANA
MCC.
wins
if
this,
they just
and
win against Kamaikan, it's done.
it's done because, well, I guess it's not done.
Well, no, because then Kennewick could win out and they'd be
if they
tied.
lost to PASCO.
So CHIAWANA just needs to win out.
Yes,
if
CHIAWANA
wins
wins out,
they
they're
are the
going to-
MCC champs.
Okay, yeah. So 2012 was the last time they had teams that had multiple with the same record. I'm trying to find out if they. I don't know.
I guess we'll just have to
We'll
wait
find
and
that.
find out. What
I'm almost
the conference
positive though that
does.
they don't have the tiebreaker. They give it to co-champs. I know they do it for soccer and volleyball, for sure. I know that for sure. So I don't understand. I don't think they would change it just for football, but yeah. So the MCC standings would be very much shook up if Kamaikan went in to Edgar Brown and took care of business this week and gave CHIAWANA a 1 loss, and then you have 3 teams with 1 loss for the final week.
It's going to be interesting. Super excited. Make sure to keep it locked here on Keeper Action News. We'll have all the best coverage that we can provide to you as we get into these last couple of weeks. That's our MCC wrap-up. Now it's time
Do we go through
the
this? Did we do the schedule though real quick and tell them about the must-watches and the ones that we're going to look at? Or no, we already did that.
Yeah, we did that.
Okay,
we did that.
Okay.
If we didn't, then you can at me and send your Twitter hate to me. But now it's time to go out to Prosser. The Mustangs went 0-2 to start the season, but
all non-conference, and then they just
look
decided
what they just decided to do in the CWAC.
Yeah, they have wrapped up their second straight CWAC South, I believe. Yes, because CWAC North is what the group that Othello is in. But yeah, they wrapped up the CWAC South Division crown because they took care of Toppenish, a very good Toppenish team that was undefeated in the CWAC coming into last Friday, and now Prosser has rolled off 5 straight wins, 3-0. They are now going to play Ellensburg for the whole CWAC crown, but that'll be after the regular season wraps up. They have a little tournament here. Yeah, so it'll be Ellensburg in Grandview. That'll be November 2nd on a Saturday, which means you're going to have something to shoot that day. Actually, Grandview, someone else will shoot that for us. But anyways, Prosser, that is a really impressive turnaround. And they played out of conference and they played up to 4A. They played Sunnyside. They lose their quarterback that they were super excited about, and we talk about injuries, but they've overcome it. Caden Rivera's come in and played really well. Didn't have his best game on Friday, but he's come out and stabilized the ship. Logan Candenoza, their running back, but their defense has been great. So congrats to the Prosser Mustangs. They are back into state because that's a huge win. They're going to state. They're into the state bracket. Last year they had to go to Tumwater. They got a tough draw there. Hopefully that doesn't happen again just for our sake and their sake. But yeah, shout out to Prosser getting the job done. And now they play Wapato. And the nice thing is about Wapato's 0-3. So the nice thing about that is they already know their fate. And if they have to rest some guys, like we said, we're getting late in the year. Every team has injuries. Every guy is, got bumps and bruises. And kind of getting late in a season, if you can get even a couple quarters off, then that saves your body for a couple hits, especially with football.
Yeah, especially, at the end of the season, like you said, there's so many bumps and bruises, and that's what I always ask whenever I go to practice. The first question I ask the coach is, how's everybody doing? How's everybody with the nicks and knacks and bruises? Because at this point, everybody is hurt. And, my coach has always said, and this might be toxic sports culture, but he said, if you're hurt, play, rub it off. If you're injured, that's when, you go to the doctor and we will make sure that you don't practice or play. But everybody at this point is hurt. So like you said, you wrap up winning 5 straight after going 0-2. Seems everything's clicking on all cylinders and you're going to the playoffs. Now's an opportunity for you in practice and in these games to get opportunities to rest, make sure that your depth lineup is going well, everything's good on the chemistry on the back end. And so shout out to the Prosser Mustangs. I mean, they lost those first 2 games and the injury at quarterback. I was thinking, wow, this is going to be a little bit rough to bounce back. But like you said, Logan Candenoza, that defense, the coaching staff really got them to come together.
wide receiver.
Just really, really great game for them.
Yeah, and this will be senior night at Art Fiker. Final game of the regular season, and then they get in, so they don't they have their playoffs start a week earlier than the MCC. So yeah, and then Royal won, TCP won, Columbia won. So pretty much chalk there. That was a big win for TCP though when they took down White Swan, because White Swan was also with a 1 loss in the conference, and now they hold the 2nd seed. So we're gonna kind of zoom past that. No big real matchups there for small schools. I mean, there's always a big school. I mean, for Liberty Christian, if we're looking at it, they need to just keep winning so that they can get a better seed. The EWAC is going to get 6 teams into the playoffs, so they're going to get a lot. But yeah, we'll go from there. Now let's move forward to back to the MCC volleyball, soccer. Mick went out to volleyball, CHIAWANA versus Richland for the first time to kind of experience that rivalry on the volleyball court. Takeaways.
They were number 1 on mixed picks last night. The reason that they were number 1 is because in the 7 months that I've been in the Tri-Cities, CHIAWANA versus Richland was the greatest sporting event that I have attended and covered. Which is saying a lot because we have great athletes, great teams, great rivalries, and great matchups. And this one really came down to who had the most grit, who was going to grind out, and both of them did a great job. That's why I put Richland and CHIAWANA in mixed picks, because I was so upset that there had to be one winner.
You could
because there was winners across the board in this matchup.
Yeah, and I saw just the footage because I was out shooting other things. That was Thursday night, so I was at the football game. And we also had a soccer game that night, for a big soccer game. But I saw the footage coming back, and after the game point, the match point, like girls were just on the floor and like just exhausted. So you know that they just worked their tail off for 5 sets, and it was a great 5-set. Richland won the first 2. CHIAWANA wins the next 2, and then they went to a deciding game 5. And so if people don't know volleyball, if you go down 2-0, your night's pretty much up. Like as a team, you go back to the bench, because I played volleyball in California in high school, and you're like, man, we're down 2-0. We got to win 3 straight. Just 3 straight games to 25 is a lot to ask, no matter how good you are. But for them to fight back, they took care of business in Game 3. Game 3 they did it pretty handily, if I remember correctly. They get done in Game 4, and then Game 5, CHIAWANA fought, and you thought maybe they were going to pull it off. And it was a huge game because essentially CHIAWANA cannot win the MCC title unless they get some help.
Yeah.
Because there's still some games left, and if they got some help, they could. But
the thing that made me so impressed about CHIAWANA and made me love this game so much is, like you said, sometimes when you go down 0-2 in volleyball, you feel like there's no way you can come back. I didn't get that from the Riverhawks at all, because the first game was very close. I think it was only a 2-point differential that Richland won. I think it was 25-23. And even in the second game, it was like a couple points left. I think it was 25-21. And so these games were close. It's not like Richland was running away with things in the first 2 games. They were close. And I got no sense of panic from the girls on CHIAWANA or the coaching staff. They knew that they were in it, and they knew that these games were close, and they knew that they had a chance, even though that they were down 0-2, come in Game 3 and won convincingly. The points are always going to be close. But in volleyball, the way that the ball goes sometimes and the way that you can kind of control the ball at the net, they really took away Sage Brewstead on the outside in Games 3 and 4, didn't allow her to come right in with all that fire, and I'm calling her Lady Thor because she lays down the hammer. And so CHIAWANA wins Games 3 and 4, and now the script is completely flipped. The energy is taken out of the building because 1st to 15, let's see who takes it. Richland makes the adjustment and comes away with the victory. Like I said, best sporting event that I've covered in the 7 months here in the Tri-Cities. It was great. The energy was fantastic. CHIAWANA student section traveled pretty well. The best thing that I saw from the student section was Ben Fuel and members of the Richland football team were in attendance and making a lot of noise. It was just a super fun game to go to, and Richland has the greatest facility that I have seen.
In the Tri-Cities?
I had never been to Richland's basketball
volleyball
court.
It's a great
Absolutely
gym.
Fantastic.
Yeah, and I will say, if there's anything to be concerned, if you are a Richland fan, you got the win, so let's not be too concerned. But the last 2 times you've gone up 2-0 on a team that's quality like CHIAWANA, you've let them win, or not let them. I shouldn't say they let them win, but they've lost Game 3. And you're playing with fire at that point. Because like you said, if you win game 3, then you think you have a shot. If I'm in that position, I say, you're up 2-0, shut the door.
Yep.
Don't give them any life. Go out and win game 3. And I don't know what they did if they changed up lineups, because I've seen in the past where sometimes they change up lineups there and get some people some PT. I would just close the door, especially on a team that is as good as CHIAWANA. You don't want to give them any life. They went to the state last year for the first time ever, so they know how to win. That would be the only thing that I'd be concerned with. Richland, you get the win. You took care of CHIAWANA twice, but let's close the door if you want to be a dominant team.
And like you said, at this point of the season, whether it's volleyball, football, or soccer, people are tired.
Yeah.
And like you said, at the end of the game, both teams were exhausted, which is the best thing that you want to see from students and you want to see from athletes. At the end of the game, you want to be exhausted.
Yeah.
Because that means that you gave and you left everything that you had on the floor. But it doesn't have to always be like that.
Yeah.
Like you said, if you go up 2-0, just, the metaphor in sports is to put your foot on their throat and just press.
Yep.
And just get it over with. So.
Yep.
Great game.
So now at the top, just real quick before we move on, Richland and Walla Walla are both undefeated. Remember, Richland and Walla Walla only play once this year. It is the last game of the season, in the regular season.
This Thursday, correct?
But,
over in...
no, that's CHIAWANA's. CHIAWANA, Walla Walla. So
CHIAWANA.
this is a good game because CHIAWANA, though they cannot, they would need some help, and they can be their own help. If they take care of Walla Walla and hand Walla Walla their first loss on Thursday, Walla Walla is rolling. But that's a big game. CHIAWANA versus Walla Walla down there, not only for the MCC, but, you can shake up the 4A playoff seedings. They're going to go to the playoffs, but all 3 teams are going to the playoffs, so you don't need to worry about that. But if you get a little higher up, maybe get a home game there. Other side, on the pitch, we had another big game, and it was also Richland-CHIAWANA on Thursday night.
But in this one, CHIAWANA came away with the
yeah,
victory.
so they shared. They were sharing. Sharing's carrying with the wins, and CHIAWANA came away with the win, and now they control their own destiny. They are 10-1. Richland is 10-2. Kamaikan is 8-3. Walla Walla 7-4, and then Hanford's 7-5. So you keep going down. Obviously it goes, but CHIAWANA has only 1 loss, and they can close things out this last couple weeks and take care and get an MCC title, which CHIAWANA has not gotten an MCC title since at least 2013, and that's just me looking at the website right now, and that is with Summer Yates, who is a baller out at Washington, and they could still not get an MCC crown. So that'd be quite the accomplishment if they did it. See, here, this is what I'm telling you. If you look at soccer, you see Hanford and Southridge, Kamaikan and Southridge, because they had same record. So I don't know why football would be any different. But yeah, so CHIAWANA, and who they play this week? Hanford, tomorrow night. Good game because Hanford is the only team that's beat CHIAWANA.
And they beat them at home too. Hanford went to the Riverhawks field and handled their business and gave them their first loss of the season. So, CHIAWANA is definitely going to want to not only get that win because revenge isn't going to be in their hearts, but also knowing that they control their own destiny and can get the MCC title and stand alone and not have to share it with anybody.
Yeah, and the Falcons know they can beat them. So Tuesday night, that's a good game also on the pitch. Now where are we going here?
We got to go to AMS now.
AMS Nation.
Wrapping up their solid weekend. We won't say great because there was a rough spot on Friday.
Go 5-5, that's good.
They gave
or
you
500,
a very, very good birthday present on Saturday.
Yeah, I was there
night
on
at the Toyota
Saturday. It was a great game. They won in a shootout, and Booker sealed it. Daniel Booker sealed it for the Americans. He was the winning goal in the shootout.
He also had his first ever WHL goal early in the game.
Yeah, he had a great game. And Friday night, they got it put on him in Everett, and it was 5-1. And for them to bounce back and come out on Saturday, first period wasn't great. I felt like when I was just watching from the stands, it looked like the T-Birds kind of were dictating the momentum, dictating the pace. They were first to lose pucks. And then after that, second and third periods, where Americans stepped up their game, and they played a lot of the game in Seattle's zone, and also showed on the shot clock, because I believe in the first period, the shot differential was crazy in hand of Seattle. I think it was like 15-6.
Yeah, it was not good.
I'll look at it. Pull it up right here. Yeah, actually it was not. It wasn't as bad as I thought. I think at one point it was. But 15-10, Seattle outshot. And then for the final 2 periods, the Americans outshot Seattle. And yeah, Beck kept them in that game early on. I think before, when you were running from here to there, takes about 5-10 minutes. There was he made a crazy save, push into his left. He made another one. Beck kept them in that game, and they came back and they got the 2 points. You do want to get, with hockey, if you go into overtime, the other team gets a point, right? You're not, so you against a division opponent, you want to get all 2 and shut them out. But a win's a win. I will say, you should hold the lead for more than 5 seconds, though.
Yeah, so that was the problem. So as soon as Connor scored the goal, I packed up my stuff and left. And then when I got back to the station, I was like, wait, they tied it up, and what? It was 5 seconds?
It was 8.
8 seconds.
It was off the next. It was off the next face-off.
Wow.
Off the next face-off, they came right down, and Americans fans were still cheering. Ams Nation was still hyped up. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that's the
buzzkill.
definition of sucking the air out of the building.
Yeah, and for hockey, the first shifts, there's times in games that people are going to really focus on. Shifts after goals are huge because if you let the other team gain momentum, then you kind of just let all the momentum that you had out of your goal. And if you give up a goal, that's the ultimate worst. Then also they talk about the first 5 and the last 5 of periods. Those are also momentum changers. But yeah, that was kind of a buzzkill. But it doesn't matter because they got the win.
And they provided a great game for your birthday.
Yeah.
You were in attendance, having a good time.
It was a good birthday.
But yeah, that's, AMS, they've won 3 in a row at the Toyota
at
Center.
home, yeah.
So, fans are doing a great job packing the Toyota Center, making it loud, making it easier for the team to get victories. We got a crazy week ahead of us, partner. We got a lot of volleyball, a lot of soccer, and then football. Every week is already crazy, but this week with the playoffs,
we're down to it now. 2 weeks left in the regular season. Everything gets wrapped up by October 30th. So, because I don't think anything really happens on Halloween, because I think people are like, oh, well, let's not do things on Halloween. That might be good. Yeah.
Probably the best bet.
So everything's going to get wrapped up on the 30th. Like on Thursday this week, we have cross country. We have 3A, 4A, MCC cross country that I'm going to get out there for because there's so much going on. There's so many sports. We haven't really got out to cross. We've got out there. You went out to the Connell invite, but yeah, Thursday I'm going to go to because that's playoffs. That's kind of my philosophy for the sports that we can't get to week in and week out. When it comes playoff time, let's at least get something so that we can give all the kids a little bit of love. We also introduced something on Friday night where we had Garrett Grillo, our first FNF correspondent.
Host.
Yeah, guest correspondent. And so we're going to do that, and then we're going to do Call Your Own Play. We're trying to evolve here, and if you have any ideas of how you think we can engage you, the fans, or the viewers, listeners, a little bit more, let us know, because we're always trying new things.
Yep.
May not work, and we might say no, but hey.
Yeah, we might just, shut you down and keep our DMs closed. But we're always trying to evolve, always trying to be more interactive with the fans, making sure that we, represent you in the best way we can. And so make sure that you follow the Monday Trifecta podcast on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, and SoundCloud.
I gotta do a little shout out. The homeboy said that he loved the podcast. One of the Dirty Birds linemen, number 65 in my heart, Wyatt Eller. Shout out to Wyatt Eller. He said he wanted a shout out. He was stretching during the second half, and he was like, "Man, I love the podcast." I said, that's awesome. So I'll give you a shout out. So Wyatt, there's your shout out. And I also said, hey, I want an audible. If I ever get an audible, if some team out there calls an audible and says, Alan, I will go, I think I'll retire.
At that point, I think you peak.
Yeah, I'll just retire at that point.
You can retire.
So coaches, if you're listening, if you guys get an audible call that's Alan, I will officially retire. So if you guys want me out of here, just get that and we'll just walk out. I'll just walk out on set right now. Walk it out.
Well, that's basically how the podcast is going to end at this point. Hoshida's left the desk. Mick, I'm here. Going to be here every Monday. We thank you, everybody, for tuning into the Monday Trifecta podcast. We'll see you next Monday. Alan, there's pizza in the break room.
Pizza?